is Katarzyna Mrowca and I'll be your host today. I have like really lovely badge because my name, my short version of my name is Kasia, and it's really close to the Swedish name, so it's like a bit misspelled, which is like kind of nice as well. I can like pretend to be Swedish. I even learned Swedish once, but unfortunately I failed miserably, so I admire everyone who speaks this language because it's not so easy to learn. So welcome everyone. So I see that still few people are going into the room, but I think that we can go ahead. So who I am? I'm like agile person in daily basis. Like I'm more like product owner, but for a technical kind of product. So there are like booking engines, algorithms, models, forecasts, stuff like that. But basically, I'm like agile person, so also you can see on the slide. I'm part of the Agile Lean enthusiast community in Krakow, when I'm originally from. Right now I'm based in London. I was co-organizer of the Agile Lean Europe on conference in Krakow, and also like I'm part, oh, okay. We are truly agile, something happened. Oh yeah, Wi-Fi just said that it's like disconnected and switched off my slide. So, okay, excellent, we are back, I hope. Or not really, not yet, not yet. Okay, so maybe small side topic while we are waiting. Yeah, my slides are back. In the previous conference in Sweden, in Stockholm, I had like custom fonts and something broke with my computer and custom fonts didn't work. So this time I don't have custom fonts, but I forgot to switch off Wi-Fi, so we have like true adventures over here as well. So lessons learned, next time, switch off the Wi-Fi as well. Yes, learning curve. But basically, Agile is about adapting, so this is a perfect example that we should adapt quickly, and as in my case, just talk through the presentation. Okay, so I'm Agile person, and I also noticed that basically right now it's like kind of fashionable to be Agile, and no matter what we are doing and what are our company's profile and expectations, everyone want to be Agile. So there is the talk connected with basically happiness. I really encourage to watch that. And basically, human beings are really good at convincing themselves that they are like happy and basically the situation is good. And I noticed that companies do the same with Agile, even though they're like having like roadmap with strict deadlines for 5 years ahead. They said we are Agile. There is no possibility to have like change on scope or anything because everything is signed up. There is a lot of stuff connected with planning put in place, and basically, as I said, there is a roadmap, there is the deadlines, there is steady fixed budget and everything, fixed scope, and still people claim that they're agile. So why? I try to talk through why we are trying to be agile and why we are forcing agile. In like not really good way, because what does it do? It basically causes frustrations, and especially when we have like a lot of young people who are starting their journey in industry. They are in a company that maybe it's kind of big, and they're using term agile, and they are not really agile. And then when they are switching, they thought, oh my god, this whole stuff basically it's not working. So everyone are disappointed. Company is disappointed because they are like not delivering, and so on. Okay. Let's basically start why we have this issue. First of all, we have the project management, which is kind of standard thing that a lot of people probably had at uni. So this is kind of like PMI stuff, or if you're like from England, there's the Prince 2 certification, which is also kind of fashionable. So you have all of traditional project management perspective of the stuff, for instance, that Ford did in their factories, and basically there's the novelty, so the agile. So agile principles are like more like philosophy, and some people thought, okay, let's connect the two. So let's connect the traditional kind of project management with the agile principles and just call it like agile project management. And I even see certification from stuff like that. And the question is it actually possible to, do like certification from something that's supposed to be like philosophy, so valuing customers and stuff like that? It's kind of tricky. Before I go ahead, how many of you heard the term Agile Manifesto? Just raise your hand. Okay, keep your hands on. How many of you would like to say aloud the Agile Manifesto? There are like few. Okay, I won't ask then because there was like hesitation. I believe that everyone heard it, everyone at least once saw it. But in companies, even if we have Agile, maybe we have like Scrum. How many of you work in Scrum? Okay, Scrum basically is a process. Some of people will say, okay, processes are not Agile, and also we will try to answer this question is during the talk, basically how to adapt the Scrum to be like more flexible as well. So yes, so we sometimes just assume that if we have Scrum, we are automatically Agile, but I've seen the companies that they have Scrum, they implemented Scrum, like literally implemented it, but still they are not Agile because there is no flexibility, and the whole point is about adapting and not forcing some kind of processes or frameworks. We need to remember that something that works in a different company, copy-paste won't work in our company. Even within the same company, if we try to copy-paste the certain practices to the different team, not necessarily it would work because we are like human beings and we interact in a different ways. But okay, let's start. Processes and tools. Yes, so we have a Scrum, and basically sometimes we think, okay, if we have the Scrum, everything works perfectly. What we can see, we have like beautiful scope with the user stories 2 years ahead estimated, and instead of actually trying to adapt, we can't change anything, and we work in sprints obviously, and we use Magic Jira. For some, Jira is synonym of Agile, and it's not. Basically, what else? We shouldn't maybe think about people instead of processes, because as I said, Scrum is a process. It's helpful if you never before were Agile and we are transforming, especially if you work in a huge company. This is a good first step. But again, if you don't even try to adapt it, you just take the book and follow the steps, it may just not be as fruitful as you expect, and again, it causes frustration. Okay, documentation. This is basically funny, because again, we usually say, okay, we should have the working software instead of documentation. Agree on that. Documentation is needed as well, however, not too many stuff that we basically usually produce. I'm not saying that none of documentation is important, especially if we have user guides, stuff like that, that are important. But instead of that, we can have automatic tests. And instead of producing the thousands of pages that no one will read again, ever, we can basically write the test and make certain that our code will work after a few years. Quick question, how many of you works in startups? No startup here. Okay, one startup. Okay, that's cool. How many? Oh, two? Oh, yeah, you are shy. Okay. And how many of you work in the companies that are up to maybe 500 people? Okay. I assume that the rest is working in bigger companies. So again, if you have multiple teams, we sometimes don't know how to cooperate in terms of communication. So we start writing documentation just to make certain that people are aligned. Not necessarily it's working, and if we have tests, it basically is easier to check if the feature that we are re-implementing or basically changing is working as it's supposed to do, because no one will even remember where the documentation is stored, because we have beautiful tools I don't know, Confluence, user stories, a lot of Jira stuff, and then in the end we even don't know where the stuff are put, especially if we have complex software. Okay, customer collaboration. This is kind of important. We always say, oh yeah, we should talk with our users, we should set expectations, and we sometimes forget that writing an email or writing a comment in Jira or Confluence is actually not communication, and this will be scary. We actually need to talk with people. I know, terrifying. I just see your faces right now. It's really easier to understand what our customers are asking for if we are actually communicating with them. So another tough question for you guys. How many of you basically have a contact with customer or end user? Just raise your hand. Okay, not too bad. And how many of you work in agile manner? Scrum, Kanban, whatever, but we are like agile. Okay, I see that there is not that majority raise the hand, but those like the bigger set of people don't raise the hand with the communication with customer. So Agile is about communicating with customers. So the whole point about the manifesto was, okay, we software engineers, we software developers want to finally understand our end customer and be able to talk with them without middle layer. And now you can be a bit suspicious. You are a product owner and you are saying that we should communicate. Yes, because projects are usually complex, and instead of having army of people like me, like product owners, we should like distribute, so everyone should be able to communicate with customer in the terms, just be able to ask questions. If you have like too many proxies, it just start to be inefficient, especially if you have like hilarious situations when you have like sales people who talk with customers, then you have marketing people who talks with customers, then you have the team of product owners who talk with customers, then you have team of BAs that obviously talked with all the rest of people in the chain, and then you have development team that obviously is agile, who is allowed only to speak with the business analyst. So then the chain is so long that actually we have no clue what the real customer is and what they are needing from our software. So yeah, obviously I'm also like consultant, so I have to say that each situation is different, and maybe this can work. I've never saw it's working, but maybe there is one case in the universe, maybe some parallel universe even, that is working. Who knows? Again, responding to change. If we have backlog for 5 years ahead, we are not able to responding for a change quickly enough. So excellent example for that, it could be like kind of applications that are used for, let's say, banking apps. The few years ago, even not few years ago, do you remember even when there was like the novelty on the market when there was like fingerprint login to the device, like iPhone and other stuff? So basically, if you have the banking app that allows you to log in via fingerprint when it's like new stuff, which is like kind of hot, then it's something that can produce an advantage for the other competitors. I moved last year from Poland to the UK, and for me it was like normal to log into my banking app via fingerprint, because for some reason Polish apps did it. When I moved to the UK, I searched for a bank that actually allowed me that, and guess what? There was like none. So I switched to the random one, and then when my current bank deployed the app with the fingerprint login, I just immediately switched the bank because there's like no difference between the services. So I thought, okay, this is something I'm using frequently enough that I would be able to like be like having the convenient. So there's plenty of examples like that in the market that we are not able to respond because we have backlog 5 years ahead or 2 years ahead or even a few months ahead. And we are not able to switch. Why? Because we are committed and we are like in the ecosystem of other apps, so someone else is waiting for our feature. So squeeze something in, it's like really hard. So okay, quickly wrapping up, those were basically points from Agile Manifesto, just for people who didn't notice, but I expect that everyone did. So if we are focusing too much on tools, then it's like hard for us, especially if we are like focusing on, okay, let's do Agile, so let's implement like Jira or whatever other tool, version 1, we would like to use for backlog management. Not really works that way. We just struggle to find the bigger picture, and instead of basically seeing the vision, we have like literally backlog with small user stories and without an end and a lot of commitment. We have a lot of proxies, so chain of people that are between us and customer, and basically we don't keeping things like small enough to be able to change them as well. So those are like the quick lessons learned from my experience as well, and from the companies I worked in that really struggled to be more agile. And I hope that those common themes that now we will be also like discussing will also help you later on to fix your situation, because what I noticed that always a hope, even in big companies. I have experience in like software houses, like in internal IT departments, as well as external, with working with several customers with one big product. So always there are some small tweaks that can, you know, help you to be like more agile and develop faster, basically better products. Okay, so basically what's the difference between Waterfall and Agile? So first step is like noticing that we are doing the waterfall stuff, and sometimes companies are not aware because they thought, okay, waterfall is like clearly like that, right? But because we are doing, you know, we are doing the sprints, we have doing the iterations, we are clearly agile. And as I have to say that it's like really good first step to like starting to be agile. But what's the wrong here? Basically, we have no feedback loop from our users, potential customers. Again, I work in a product which were developed like 5 years before it was deployed to the production, and I have to say that even though we had sprints, it was definitely too long, just too long. So this magical time to market allow us to deploy faster, and that's why Agile is kind of beneficial, and that's why everyone wants it. So you don't have to have sprints, you don't have to have like iterations in order to achieve that. It's a kind of example, and also it's worth to remember that maybe in your organization the model of iterations like that won't work. Maybe you need to have like continuous deployment, continuous delivery, and basically you need to ship every minute or whatever. It all depends on your situation. If you are during the transition period, this can be like good kind of experiment, but you need to start working on chunking it up. In one of the companies I worked in, we start from chunking it for like year releases, then half a year releases, then every 3 months releases, and then finally every month release, and it was like great success. Why? Because also the companies that were buying our software, this was like ERP kind of software, which was like really big and heavy, weren't like straight, they weren't prepared for releasing like more frequently, because it was connected with training, it was connected with like a lot of operation work on their side. So for them the agile thing seemed okay, we would like to test, we would like to see, however not necessarily deploy to the production. And again, we need to remember what's the context. So the software I was talking about was airline kind of software, and probably no one would like to, you know, to fly with a plane that has like new software deployed every minute, like, and you know, maybe with not really sufficient tests, because all tests were passed, but you know, somehow sometimes stuff are failing, we know all because we are working in IT. So there are different models in our business partners side as well. So we need to remember that even though Agile is brilliant because help us to have a feedback loop, sometimes you also need to think about our business partners and how they are working, because maybe every week release or continuous delivery is simply not working for them. So it should be conversation, I know, scary word again, between the two in order to adapt in the way that suits to your company, your business partners' models as well. Okay, so this was the feedback I was talking about. So what's about like not planning at all? Is it even possible? Here is again topic around estimations and stuff. There is really popular kind of topic which is called no estimates. Can we actually have that? Well, first of all, companies are usually feel more comfortable if they have some kind of roadmap, because roadmap means predictability. We can, at least we are thinking that we can, see what's in the future. It's kind of like magic ball that basically you can see and say, oh yeah, in the future is this, this and that. Unfortunately, it's not so easy, because if we have roadmap commitments and we didn't see, for instance, those beautiful Apple payments or stuff like that, well, it means that those commitments are basically blocking us. So it's good to have like idea about the roadmap, not necessarily the plans. And in the second part of the talk, I will show you the ideas how to manage that expectations. So backlog itself, it's brilliant to have it. However, we need to remember about the size. If we have too many user stories or backlog item or whatever we have in our company, we basically don't know what is inside because there is no possibility to manage, like, let's say 1,000 user stories of backlog items. It's simply, we have no clue. Or we need an army of people to do it, and it's not necessarily the best idea, because remember that in the end the product matters, not how many requires we have written down. So what we can basically do, we can check how many items we are able to deliver within the time box that we are working in. If it's sprint, that's fine. If we are not having a Scrum, but something different, and we just check, okay, how many user stories we have, then how many teams we have working on the product, multiply it, have some spare ones as well, because sometimes we have blockers, and this is the number of user stories we need. So let's say that we have 2 teams, each team has like 5 people, 1 person do like 1 user story per sprint, so we need around 10, few spare ones just to exchange in case there is some blocker, and maybe 1 sprint ahead. So it's around maybe 25 user stories per team for this product. Why not more? Because as I said, we won't be able to guess the priorities, and it will be really hard to see what's basically happening. And yeah, sometimes our customers are terrified when we say, okay, we will just write it down on the post-it notes and put it on the wall, but not in Jira. So again, this requires cooperation, and not always it's possible to have stuff like that. And also frequently I'm asked, okay, but what to do with backlog that we already have? I would say delete it. If we really can't, just move it to the separate backlog, separate spreadsheet, separate place where it just not interrupt us. Some people try, oh, let's review it. If you have 1,000 user stories and you have like single person, it will be like really hard to see the priorities as well. So those are really tricky parts that again depends on the company. Another thing, it's like our customers always will want more. So what basically happens is that at the beginning, especially if we are starting with the product, we have like not enough features, and basically it's a bit clunky, maybe not really usable. But then is the perfect moment in time where, okay, there's more or less the amount of stuff that we need to do, and adding more is start to be confusing from the UX perspective, code maintenance perspective, for basically every perspective. And then suddenly we end up with software that it's so stuffed that we basically don't know what it's doing. So there's like few solutions for that. We can have modules, and we can switch on and switch off modules depending on the customer and customer needs. Microservices are so popular right now that this kind of approach, I think that perfectly suits for that. And also, terrifying thought, we can delete excessive features. So especially if we have software that is 20 years old and people were just adding features without even thinking and validating about removing old ones, you can imagine what happens. I worked in a software that was started to develop before the Internet Protocol existed, and everything was fine up to a point that basically software collapsed when we had another feature because it just couldn't handle. So stuff like that is happening, and the way just to think about for your future colleagues that then will take your beautiful new app and develop further on that is like also, okay, how to do it in a way that someone else can delete it. Obviously, automated test is one of the stuff, but again, trying to reduce dependencies in the code as well. And what else, if we don't have like feedback loop happens, we are developing stuff that our customers actually don't want. Or if we have like this beautiful chain of people, like marketing, sales, blah, 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 they're usually saying, oh yeah, we have this beautiful feature that customers even didn't ask for. And we add it, and then we are figured out, oh, okay, nobody's using it. How we can figure it out? Basically, again, one of the good practices is basically checking and logging where customers are clicking. because this is one of the things that later on can allow us to judge if we can remove the feature or not. Okay, so basically, if we have too many features, it's really hard to make it like user-friendly as well. I'll give you a time to read. Few people just smiled, so I assume the Dilbert was funny as always. That's good. So what else we have? The quality of the backlog items. So sometimes we see the user stories that are written just to have the user story format. Guys, if the format don't bring any value for you, just don't use it. It would be, more beneficial for everyone in the team if it will be like only login functionality written in the backlog instead of stuff like that. And I've seen plenty of user stories in similar manner, and really the format should help you to answer the important questions like why, who, what. If you can't answer the questions, just put down the stuff that you know. And not necessarily squeeze it to the format just because we are agile and we are using format and we have to have format because otherwise Word will collapse. It won't. And frequently the teams I'm working with are saying, okay, we would like to have concise message. We don't care about the format. And again, if the customers don't see our requirements, and frequently they don't, we can make them slightly more technical in terms that other people in the team understand, because we also need to remember for whom we are writing. If those are requirements that really customers are reading, then maybe it's a sense to write them in a format. However, customer won't understand that. Engineers don't understand that, so I can bet that customers won't. So just think about how we are dealing the stuff and if they actually bring value. Because all the agile things is, okay, leave the stuff that bring value to you. If something doesn't bring value, just don't do it. Even if the Scrum says you that you need to use X, Y, Z, but you don't feel the value from that, just don't use it. It's simple as that. And the whole point about Agile is about reducing unnecessary stuff and reducing the amount of work that you need to do. Again, really important thing is like definition of done. And sometimes we have almost done. And this is the most difficult part to deal with, because we have a feature that is like almost done, because it's kind of working. Maybe it's even like past tests, because all tests are green. But if we click through it, it's just like, I don't know, clunky. Maybe there's something with user experience that's not working. Or maybe there's like not automated test written, but there's a feature already, so we are tempted to ship it to the production, even though we know that we should write the test as well. There's a plenty of reasons that we just put something to almost done. And also there is one thing, okay, guys, why we are doing the almost done thing? Because we have like lovely managers or only other people who are like their Excel spreadsheets and measure our velocity and other stuff, and we have beautiful KPIs and we want to reach our KPIs. So it's a kind of tempting to say, oh yeah, we actually, we are like done-ish, it's like almost there, so we can like move it to another line. It's tricky, and I noticed that this is actually common for big projects. So those charts, if you have like discussion about, okay, why we should get rid of processes like that, you can say, okay, so if we have like really huge project where we have like huge backlog and we have a lot of estimates and basically commitments, statistic is quite of cruel for us. This is basically from Chaos report from Stanford. So you can, Standish Group, sorry. You can basically reach it and read it. I've seen from the one from 2015 and it looked really similar. So the big projects are basically failing because there is, they are just not deployed to the production. There are like a lot of massive changes because, guys, imagine 5 years project. We are starting it. We are writing the requirements. We are working in lovely sprints. And then after 5 years, we are validating the ideas. Obviously, business environment changed because stuff are moving forward. We are not able to freeze time and, wait until we finish our development. So because the things changed, the requirements are changing as well. And our business doesn't understand that, okay, why we are like not aligned, because in their minds, the requirements they are the same, but in practice, they are not, because business move forward. Sometimes there is a success, but as I said, statistic is quite cruel. By success, the definition is within scope and within budgets and within timeline that we thought that there is. So 10% is not a lot. In terms of smaller, those are mainly startups, smaller products. It's just easier because we can also like easier ship to the production and basically show our customers and have the feedback loop and constantly change stuff. And basically Agile is about that. Not about sprints, but about validating the ideas. So what you can do if you have a really huge project? First of all, divide for a smaller modules. If you can, deploy the modules, not the whole stuff. Also, why the big projects are failing? Because suddenly you are changing all the business processes in the company. So a lot of people need to change, and people are resistant to change. I think, okay, a lot of conferences have like separate like topics and tracks around, okay, how to convince people for a change, because this is a problem. If you have smaller change, because there's like only one module that is changing, so maybe only one business process is affected, it's also like easier for us to convince business people to, oh yeah, this is something cool, we'll simplify your life. And we'll simplify life of like one department, not the whole company. So you have like less resistance to deal with. So this is cruel if you have the conversations with manager or business people. If you show this report, basically they will be convinced and will be willing to listen to you about chunking the stuff. Because another thing is that we have like a lot of technical conferences and we are speaking about Agile. Business people not necessarily even know what it is. They heard the word, they know it's trendy, so they really want to work with a company that is Agile, but they not necessarily understand what does it mean for them. So this is also our role to educate a bit. And if we have arguments, use the data to show why it's beneficial. Okay, quickly wrapping up. Good first step, but not the last step, is trying to do the iterations. And the basically roadmap commitments, it's kind of dangerous because it doesn't allow our flexibility. And too big backlog just hides what's important, what are the priorities, so we should try to have it smaller and delete the excessive one, or at least move it. If you have too many features, again, it's starts to be hard and clunky from the user perspective and from our perspective. So we also should think about or reducing the number of features that we already have, so deleting, or maybe reviewing some modules that we have in order to enhance them, just to make certain that we don't have too much stuff, or just chunk the application for the modules and switch on, switch off, depending on the customer needs. And also we should think about the quality of the requirements that we are writing. So if we have a format that doesn't support anything, just not using it. Okay, you can ask if there is any hope to change basically stuff, for instance, like that. So in order to reach this time to market and make certain that people are comfortable, because again, this is scary. Really, it is scary to say to the business, okay, instead of deploying once, I don't know, a year or once every 5 years, suddenly will just deploy once a month. We need to ensure that they understand why it's beneficial, and we need to like propose something that, for instance, their ideas won't be lost. Because this means that also we have like really huge backlog where everything is written down and everyone is like comfortable that we have this magic ball and we can predict our future for 5 years ahead. It's also like kind of tricky, the previous one, because this means that we have the timeline, so it's really hard to squeeze new thing. One of the stuff that I recommend is product tree, so it's not linear way of having the roadmap. So what we have is the current time box. Could be 2 weeks, could be month, depending how we are cooperating with our customers, so we can easily adapt. And we have future, that it's not presented in linear manner, so no one can just attach the timeline to it and force us to estimate. Those are the ideas, not the user stories, so they're high level. So one of the leaves over here can be like payment method or whatever. So once we decide to do it, we just nailing it down and making certain that we understand it. Again, the branches try to be like kind of modules, and it's also kind of nice to explain to the business that modules cannot merge, so we cannot have dependencies between them. Usually when we talk about dependencies in the code and between the features, people struggle to understand. If you show with something, with some analogy they understand from the real world, it's easier. Because you rather don't see the trees that looks like that are merging and unmerging the branches. So it's, you are able to structuralize it. So how do you preparing that? If it's the new product, it's probably easier because you just make the brainstorming and prepare that. If it's already existing product, those can be like existing modules and you are just attaching the ideas. Key part is gather people in the room and prepare it before the meeting just to make it effective and just validate what is inside the current time box, what is outside. Obviously, you can add new things if you need to. Okay, what else? If you have produced the ideas, you need to still figure out what to do first. And this is usually also kind of tricky. Love symbolize something that you take care of. So if you have like booking engine, you probably want to have really good performance because people want to book tickets really fast, so they don't want to wait more than a second, obviously. If you are doing website for, I don't know, hairdressers, maybe you need more usability approach here. ROI is obviously money because we want to earn. So we're taking the features and trying to validate where they are. And those that are like in the corner over here are probably the ones that we should do first in our time box. Those are kind of nice to have, but again, we need to apply logical thinking because maybe here there is some non-functional requirement like login or security issues or stuff like that that needs to be done anyway, but doesn't actually influence our return from investment or doesn't influence usability at all. But again, common sense and validating, okay, maybe we should take this as well. So once we have these ideas over here, we can detail them down. So those are our potential user stories for our time box. This also helps to understand from the business perspective why we are not doing everything, because this is the exercise we can do with them in order to understand, okay, why it's done like that. If we have direct access to the business, it's easier. If we have those marketing sales people, we just take them into the room and doing the exercise. Okay, more sins. Guesstimates. We are sometimes forced to do estimates because, again, why? Because business want to have predictability. This is, I think, my favorite word during this talk, but the whole scare, the whole basically concerns around the software is that, okay, we don't know when we will see something that is working. So in order to have some kind of possibility to understand where the stuff will be delivered, we are asked to have the estimates, and usually they are wrong. So project plans usually ends up like that. And we have also like lovely Excel-driven management. So whatever we put to the estimate, someone will take it, produce to the formula and say, okay, that's the budget, that's the timeline, that's the deadline. So even if we say, oh, come on, those are story points, you shouldn't translate them, there will be someone who will do it, who will translate it for money and for budgets. Again, we should try to make it like visible for a business that whatever we put there, it just makes no difference because we will be wrong. Maybe we can guess more or less the size, but then frequently I've seen that we thought that something is really small, but then we had like the roadblock connected with technology or whatever, and we figured out that actually this small change is that huge. So where is the point of wasting time of like 20 people during the meeting to estimate? You can also try to calculate how much costs that and see, okay, during the year, maybe it's not worth doing it. We have also the silos, and we not talk to each other. We don't understand our goals. Especially dangerous one is like software development and testing silos. Even if we work in Agile, I saw that there are sometimes separate departments with separate goals. And one of the most hilarious goals I've seen for testing department was number of bugs found. They didn't take care about quality of the bugs, let's say, but only about the number. So this is kind of KPI that is harmful for everyone. And it just happens. So what we can do, talk with people and ask about their KPIs. If we explicitly know that there is the number of bugs, maybe we can do something in order to bring as well the kind of more meaningful metrics there as well, not only this, and try to mitigate that just to make, because those things are important for both sides, right? The quality and how it's working in the production. So yes, talking with people and understanding their KPIs is helpful, especially if we have silos and we cannot break them. If we were working in smaller companies, then it's usually easier. Question, scale or not to scale Agile? There's plenty of frameworks. I hope that after this talk, you'll have your own opinion. As I said, I just recommend to take the stuff that are working for you guys. Just don't follow blindly something that is written down in some really wise book. Just see how your company is working, how you are cooperating with your customers, and what stuff can be taken. And also, there is nothing wrong in doing only part of Scrum, only part of Kanban, only part of something, and adapting to your needs. Basically, this is the whole point of having Agile in a company. It's about adapting and being flexible. It's a kind of mindset and philosophy. It's not something that you just, get the paper after following the process, because there is no any formal process for that. Quickly wrapping up, as I said, the process is not the most important part, and sometimes when we hear about implementation of Agile, we should have like the, red light flashing somewhere. Implementation and Agile, or the, kind of process and Agile, it's not the same. It's basically not the same. Also, in terms of producing tons of documentation, I would recommend automatic tests just to make comfortable with changes that we will be doing in the future, and also to be comfortable in deleting the features in the future, because then we at least can check if something's broke. Talking with people and trying to understand, first of all, how our customers and how our business is working, and how we can help them and how we can adjust our timelines to their timelines. And basically also understand our colleagues if we are working in a huge company with silos. What are the KPIs they are following, and how we can both cooperate in order to produce great software. If we can break silos, that's brilliant. In one of the companies I worked in, we basically sat together just to break silos, even though our company wasn't actually really happy about that. We just changed the desks between us, and it really helped to work, because our testers were sitting in a different floor. So as you can see, it was kind of really difficult to talk with them and understand why the bug they are saying that there is actually there, and how it was working. Also, we should be flexible and responding to change in order to be innovative, right? This is the key word, be disruptive, innovating in the industry. If we have the roadmap with fixed deadline, it's really hard to do it. Okay. Basically, the few words like for the end. We should try to find the root cause of the problems, not necessarily trying to fix the symptoms. The stuff I really like is like just don't produce Excel-driven software and Excel-driven management, because it just won't work. Again, because estimates are always guessing. I argued a few times with people that said, oh no, we are so proficient in estimating that we can, forecast the future. Even if you're able to forecast about, the work that you are doing, you're just not able to guess what, for instance, Apple will do within half a year. So even if you have brilliant estimates for yourself, you just can't predict the other people and what they are doing. Again, try to do baby steps and adjust to the business needs. Try to not having fixed deadlines, and try to have like as much flexible scope as possible. Don't be afraid of removing features and break the silos. So basically, that's it what I have. Remember that methodology or Agile, Scrum, Kanban, whatever you're using, it's fine, but in the end, the success of the app, belongs in our hands, in the brilliant software developers we are, and the brilliant teams we are creating, not necessarily about the methodology we use. So even if you're not using pure Scrum, pure Kanban, pure Agile, or pure whatever that will be fashionable in a few years, just remember that it's the team that matters. And yeah, so that's it. I think that I was a bit like 2 minutes late, so sorry for that. Do you have any questions? I don't know if we have time actually, but if yes, no questions? Okay, so thank you for your attention. Thank you. If you have any questions but didn't have time to ask, so basically you can reach me via email, you can check out my blog, or basically you can tweet as well. So thank you once again.